Hello everybody and welcome back to the Tomb Raider Underworld walkthrough. It's time to head to the Arctic Sea. It's time for the final level of Tomb Raider Underworld. It's going to take us about 3 parts, but this is it. This is the end of the story. Now, while technically we should be wearing the dry suit light, because that is the technical costume for this level, we're actually going to go with the People's Choice outfit. I believe this was voted for by the people on a Facebook poll or something or other. I'm not quite sure, but it was something along those lines. Just because it looks cool, and I do prefer it to the dry suit. I don't know, there's just something about the way it is. I mean, it's a terrible outfit to go swimming in, because I mean, it's all leather and all that, but I mean, it looks damn cool. Also, having said that, it isn't a million miles away from the dry suit, it's just the fact that, you know, there is a cleavage window. Which I had completely forgotten about when I then forced Lara to go swimming in the Arctic. Because that is an incredibly smart choice to make. Now, thankfully Lara decided to bring her magic scuba diving gear on with her for this journey. And once again we have a really large area to swim around in. And there's quite a few collectibles hidden about. There's also a number of sharks, which you're probably going to want to try and kill as soon as you see them. Which is why I'm being ultra careful. Now, fair warning, I made some rather idiotic mistakes when swimming around here. It's basically the reason why this part is as long as it is. Because what's really frustrating is that it's very easy to get lost here. Or at least it's very easy to get lost trying to find what you want to find. Because, well, it's pretty okay to see the straight path to the entrance to Helheim. And it's relatively simple to figure out what you need to do. Trying to find all of the treasures is just a pain. I mean, there's one in particular which I just completely missed. But don't worry, I will be getting it and I will be cutting out the majority of the faff. But, yeah, I got so confused. So very confused. But I feel that now is a decent time to just go over Helheim. Because that's what we're looking for. We've found it, it's just we need to get in. And there's kind of a lot of the stuff that I would like to talk about when we actually get into Helheim. Because a bunch of other interesting stuff starts happening. So, Helheim, or Hel as it's sometimes known, basically the name is associated with Hel, who is also a female figure, and she is also associated with Helheim. And Hel is basically the underworld in Norse mythology. It's kind of complicated, as I think sometimes the description of how you get there changes. I mean, Hel basically means one who covers up or hides something, or at least that's what its root word means. And it's basically, it is the underworld. Now, despite the fact that this Hel lent its name to the Christian afterlife Hel, the Norse concept of Hel is very morally neutral. So, there's no kind of good or evil, it's simply just the concealed, the underworld. That's kind of where it's going. There is the implication that you went there if you died of old age or sickness, but I think there is apparently some slight confusion as to what that means. Because Balder goes to Helheim without growing old or being sick. So technically he should go to Valhalla, but he doesn't. But it is something that you can return from, because after Ragnarok, when pretty much all of the Norse mythology is over and humanity is left to kind of start again, basically, there's a moment in the Prose Edda where Hel's mentioned a final time. Basically, after that, Balder shall come thither and Hoder from Hel. Then all shall sit down together and hold speech with one another, and call to mind their secret wisdom, and speak of those happenings which have been before, of the Midgard serpent, and of Fenris wolf. And basically, I think it's assumed, or at least theorised, that the description of Hel in the Prose Edda is probably chiefly Snorri's own work. Snorri being that guy who wrote the Prose Edda, Snorri Sturluson. I think I've brought his name up in a very, very early part when we were talking about Norse. And yeah, it's just it's an underworld, and what Tomb Raider Underworld seems to be getting at is that this is the underworld that is important, or at least it is the one that we need to go to. Now, I believe that that was the last of the swords that we needed to pull out of the chain. So there is another thing that we can then go on. Well, there's another thing that we then have to do to open up the gates to Helheim. But I am attempting to locate a rather irritating treasure, which I am not quite going to find. And I spent quite a long time searching. It was very depressing. Because basically what I'm pretty sure I needed to do was head right, go down into this massive crevice, and look there, but I just did not think to do that. I don't think I was reading properly at the time. But basically there is a really, really, really hideous treasure that is hidden behind where I am right now. And it's really, really difficult to locate, because basically it is in a corner just near where one of the shadows is, but it's nigh on impossible to spot. Like, I mean, to be perfectly honest, it's only kind of luck that I managed to orient myself by the fact that there's the whale carcass. Well, whale skeleton, I should say. It's not really a carcass, there's not really any flesh on it. But it's like, how the heck are you meant to think to even look around here to find this stuff? I mean, there's this one as well, which is just like, seriously? It's nuts. Now, while technically I should go and try and find that last treasure, I'm not going to do that until pretty much I have opened the gates of Hell. Because I've already been sidetracked from opening those things many times before in Bayonetta 2. I don't need it happening again. But yeah, now trying to kill these guys with your pistols is a bit of a bother. It's certainly possible, but they swim around so much. It's just daft. I mean, to be really honest, it's realistic. Because guns really, really do not shoot properly underwater. They're not intended for that at all. But this can still kill these things, so that's quite helpful. Now, something that I am pretty sure that I have put off, or at least I'm very certain that I haven't done it yet, which is really terrible and really not quite how I operate. But while I have discussed Keeley Hawes, and I'm pretty sure I discussed Kath Soucie, who voices Amanda, Keeley Hawes voicing Lara, and I believe I did talk about Greg Ellis, who voices Alistair, and also that mercenary from the start of the game, and if I didn't, he's Dr. Morocco in Transformers Rescue Bots, Baron Valen Rudor in Star Wars Rebels, Thomas Farrow in Hawaii 5-0, Cullen in Dragon Age Inquisition, Jimmy in Postman Pat the movie, Trevor Wilcox in Touch, Agent Spencer in Days of Our Lives, Randall in Fishhooks. He's voiced Rocket Raccoon before, he's Captain Rumford in Diablo 3. He's Ryan Catons in Gigantic. Tin in quite a few Tom and Jerry things. He's Hermes in God of War 3. Perseus in the Clash of the Titans game. Ari Valentine / Ares in Valentine. And a variety of other things. Then we have Natla, who is once again voiced by Grey Delisle, or as she is now technically Grey Griffin, who I may have covered, well, I've certainly covered her voice actress before, well, I've certainly covered Grey Delisle before many, many, many times, because obviously Tomb Raider Anniversary, but also she is the voice of Jeanne in Bayonetta, which is just amazing. She's also very, very well known as Vicky in The Fairly Odd Parents, Mandy from The Grim Adventures of Billy and Mandy, Daphne in the Scooby-Doo franchise, Azla in Avatar The Last Airbender, amongst many, 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 many other things. Like, her filmography is just redonkulous. It's just one of the hugest things I've ever seen. But yes, she's the voice of Natla, and really, you can easily find what Grey Delisle sounds like. I mean, also she's Catwoman in Lego Batman 3, and also Batman Arkham Knight, and Arkham Origins, and I believe potentially, well, yes, Arkham City as well. So there is a nice easy route for you. Zip is voiced by Alex Desert, who you won't have seen too much of, I don't think. I mean, he's apparently Dr. Braintree in an episode of The Flash, which is coming out, / is out, / I don't really know. He voiced Zemos in the Saints Row 4 Enter the Dominatrix DLC. He voiced Nick Fury in the Avengers Earth's Mightiest Heroes. He voiced, well, no, he was Wise in The LeBrons. He was Jake Malinak in Becca, which is a TV series. Eli Williams / the Hepcat in Boy Meets World. Stan Lee in The Heights. Julio Mendez in a 1990-1991 TV series of The Flash, and so on. And last but not least, Winston Smith, Lara's ever-faithful butler, is voiced by Alan Shearman, who is mostly in smaller roles, from what I can see. I mean, he's Huang Zong in pretty much all the Dynasty Warriors games that character's been in, which is balmy. He is also an elder in Happy Feet. He did a voice in the Eragon film. But what I find quite fun is that he voiced Alfred in Batman New Times. So he's not the only... Well, Winston isn't the only butler he's voiced, which is pretty awesome. Now, I think it's probably one of his bigger roles was Captain Greenaway in an 80s TV series called Mog. But yeah, he's mostly been in the background of stuff, I think. Can't really find anything else that's particularly noteworthy, which is kind of terrible. But there's certain voice actors and actors who just don't go for bigger roles, or who just don't get cast in them. And I mean, also the fact that he's somewhat older right now means that there's very limited roles out there. Now, once again, I am kind of a little bit lost, because I was trying to locate treasurers, and just... oh dear. There were multiple points when I was just like, well, maybe if I try finding it now, it might be okay. Maybe it's over here. No. I may finally locate it now, I hope. I'm not 100% sure. Please pass me with editing prowess. Was it now that I decided to find it? Or is it even later? I think it might be later, because I think it might be after I've covered the second tower. Because obviously we are picking up stones to stick into holes to then allow us to open the gates. It's a very simple concept, but I felt I should probably just point it out. But it's just this one treasure that just caused me a lot of grief, and was just really annoying to edit around, because basically it is kind of at the next rock face. I needed to go further. It's like just over there. And I think I may have just seen the glimmer. It's absolutely tiny and ridiculous. And oh, there it is. Thank God. I thought that was going to take me so much longer. I'm quite glad I did do it then, because... Yeah, that one was just really, really evil. And what's frustrating is that the guide that I was using wasn't particularly clear. I mean, it was very clear that that was the rock that you were meant to be looking at. But... it's just a pain. But thankfully, now that we have gotten that, we can move on and go to the other tower. Although I believe that first off we're going to put these little stone tablet things where they belong. Because then it means we don't have to do it on the other side. Or at least we don't have to swim all the way back round here once we've got the stuff on the other side, because that would just be ridiculous. Now, as you can see, if you try to pull the... well, turn the wheel before it is completely done, you'll just get shown, yeah, no, do this side, and then you'll be fine. Now, obviously we have, or at least we had, 3 of the damn things, but we need to get one more, which is hidden in that second tower. I mean, I'm not a massive fan of these swimming segments, it's just sort of a little bit bonkers. Because it's all just really slow. And I've somehow magically got to figure out what I'm talking about for the next 10 minutes. And just... they're just so slow. I mean, it doesn't help that, you know, I blew most of my interesting trivia for right now, right at the start. As I said, it happens. But I mean, like, I really like being able to swim, and the swimming controls in this game are pretty decent. I mean, I've certainly experienced better. At least I'm pretty sure I've experienced better. I mean, this is pretty damn fluid, don't get me wrong. But yeah, you just end up spending so much time looking around, trying to find stuff. At least when you are running about, there's only so many locations where the treasures could be. And there's only so much you can do, and so much space that you can traverse. Whereas here, you've got kind of the entirety of this massive open area, and it's amazing that it exists. I love that it exists and you're able to explore this massive underwater area. It's just that when it comes to practicalities, it's just a little bit of a pain. And it's that practical element that I think they got slightly wrong. And to be perfectly honest, I guess that's kind of something that quite a few developers seem to not necessarily think about. Is sometimes they think, oh, this would be really cool, but they don't actually think about what it's going to be like for players to play through it. And I guess that's where you get into a lot of hassle with padding and stuff just being really, really bogged down. I mean, I guess a prime example would be Legend of Zelda: The Wind Waker. Like, I don't know who the hell thought that it would be a good idea for the Triforce hunt. I mean, they obviously dramatically improved it and cut down on all the backtracking in Wind Waker HD, but in the original version, what possessed them to put that thing in? Like, I know they had to cut out like a dungeon or 2 dungeons worth, so they wanted to make up for that, but good grief. That was an incredibly tedious section, and they could have saved it so much if they just decided just to think about what it's going to be like for the players and for the people playing the game. I mean, I think also that's why you thank... well, Metal Gear Rising did so well in the hands of Platinum Games. Because they actually thought, well, we've got this concept that Kojima Productions have given to us of cutting anything, but they can't come up with a game for it. That's got to be our job. And Platinum Games do tend to, pretty much all the time, think about what would players think of this? How would they react? Is this fun for them? Is this fun for us? And therefore, is this fun for them? And by kind of thinking like that, it's very, very easy to get rid of bad ideas, sort of like this, where the area is just too big for its own damn good. But thankfully, the drawbridge into Helheim is open. And after another maze, because that's all we needed, we're very, very, very near the end of the game. It's literally just one platforming puzzle room which holds the relic, and then the final act. I'd like to say final boss, but that is certainly not the case. It's slightly disappointing, because basic spoilers right now, there is no final boss to Tomb Raider Underworld. Which is a bit, I mean, it's something that I will go into when we get there and also during the credits and all that, but I'm just preparing you now. For all the good that this game does in fixing certain poor elements of previous Tomb Raiders, it kind of fluffed it on its finale. Like, it has it all there in terms of the plot. The plot's going fine, and has the potential to be incredibly satisfying as a conclusion. It's just that, gameplay-wise, they flubbed it. I suppose it's because they put all the effort into making this massive swimming corridor, when they could have been better putting their time into making a final boss, you know, because it's a game. And while obviously I have said that Tomb Raider is much more aware, or at least this trilogy of Tomb Raiders, as were the originals really, very aware of being games, this one kind of, I guess, starts the trend of them moving away from a very typical video game structure, because you don't have any boss fights in this game at all. It's all platforming and puzzles, with some moments of combat, but none of them are in a typical boss battle fashion. Which, I mean, can work? I don't think it necessarily works here, but yeah. Now, I believe that we are pretty much at the end of the corridor now. I have absolutely no idea how you're meant to be able to tell what leads to treasure and what doesn't, and what leads to heading forwards. I think it's completely trial and error. I think that's what they expect you to do. It's swim forward. If it looks like it continues further, go back and find where the treasures are. But that takes us out of the water, finally, and into this rather imposing room. Our scuba gears run out of oxygen, and stuff is about to get real.